Okay, we're on the recording now. Hi, everyone. This is Pam Sari from the Asian American and Asian Resource and Culture Center. Today is July 20th. The year is 2020, and I'm here with the Suclean-Theorists, one of the finalists of ProjectX. So I'm here to speak with them about their project and the amazing work that they have been doing. So can I ask all of you to introduce yourselves with your name, major, and also year, please?
All right, I'll go first. Oh, okay. Gwen, go. I'll go first. My name is Calvin. My name is Calvin Huang. I study econ and math, and I'm a junior.
I can go next. I'm Gwen Alcantino. I work at the ARC. I'm an electrical engineering major, and I'm an upcoming senior.
My name is Noor Abdullah. I am a double major, bio and global studies, and I'm a junior.
My name is Kareem Harb. I'm a junior. I'm studying finance and pre-med.
My name is Jack Sharba. I'm majoring in multidisciplinary engineering, and I'm a junior.
Thank you again for your time. I attended your presentation and it was amazing, and that's why the ARC really wants to get to know you and your project. First question that I would like to ask you, and feel free to talk. I don't have any particular order. I will not, point people, but just feel free to chime in. How did you hear about ProjectX, and why did you decide to participate in this internship?
Well, okay, I don't know if this has to be like a terribly formal thing, but we're actually two separate groups got merged into one, so there will be two stories for here. The first one, we heard about it, or Gwen, Jack, and I heard about it through me because I got a Krannert weekly, and I'm kind of asked the gang if they wanted to do something for the summer because a lot of our opportunities were taken away, or we were just kind of looking for something to do, and this would have been an interesting subject because we thought it was an interesting subject because of what's happening in the world, and it was just kind of a nice way to, put our part into it. So I kind of asked two of my friends, and, we're pretty close. I know they were hard workers, and see if they wanted to do it. And if they didn't, it's okay. But yeah, we ended up doing it. And that's how we kind of got into it. Yeah.
Awesome. So Noor and Kareem, then I assume is the other group.
Yeah, I heard about ProjectX through a group chat. I'm in a BGR group chat, and one of our mentors just sent out the opportunity. Like Calvin said, I feel like this summer a lot of people's plans fell through, so I thought it would be a good opportunity, and I just told Kareem about it, so we decided to do it together.
And how did you get merged into one group?
ProjectX did it. Like they just merged us all together.
So supposedly there was a lot more people anticipated to enter, so they started merging groups. Originally it was like 3 to 4 people, and then we heard when we left it was like 6 people to a group sometimes. Mm-hmm. So.
Wow. So how did you know each other before? I know 3 of you know, but what about, and 2 of you, but what about, the 2 groups? Did you know each other? What was that process like of?
I think it's really funny because a lot of us, we didn't know each other going into it, but when we were discussing like our social circles, we realized that a lot of our friends are actually friends with each other. So we know each other, but not like we know each other from mutual friends, but we've never met each other. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And who came up with the name Suclean-Theorists? And can you tell us more about the name?
So it's like the 2 names again that mashed up. So Kareem and I's name was Suclean. Kareem, do you want to explain that?
Yeah. So I think me and Noor were coming up with names. I think we really wanted it to be unique, and I don't know. We saw a lot of people like doing like team and then their name, and we wanted something unique and bold for the competition, and we just started spitting out names. And I remember I was like, this is a COVID-19 competition, and I actually went to the country of Lebanon like 3 years ago, and I actually remember that the cleaning service like of the city government was called Suclean. It's in Arabic. They speak Arabic there, so they meant it as so clean, but the way they write it in Arabic was Suclean. I was like,
I
that's a
see.
cool name. Yes, and I thought it rhymed, so it was like Team Suclean. I was like, we'll just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the theorist part was so me, Jack, and Calvin, we kind of know each other already, and we're like a subgroup of our other friend group because we all spend a lot of time together. But it started because we were watching this show that we all really liked, and we just kept theorizing about the show. So that's how we became the theorists.
It was more like, well, we were just kind of brainstorming names, and then we decided to go for an inside joke because at the time we had believed that we were not going to be merged, and so we didn't know. We didn't really consider a lot of other factors.
That works. That works.
Yeah.
You know, the name is, I really like the name.
Thank you.
So how was what kind of, I saw that the presentation, there were 4 kind of prompts. So can you tell us what prompt you were given, and then how did you go about solving the issue, I guess?
So our prompt was specifically, they wanted us to find a way to help off-campus students in this time of crisis with the COVID-19. And we had a lot of different initial ways of thinking about this. I think the first thing that we wanted to do was advertising, like create maybe a advertising campaign on the computers at Purdue, or like just around campus, outside of campus. But we ended up deciding against this, and we moved on to our actual idea that we used in our presentation. But interesting enough, I think that the idea for putting advertisements on the computers actually went through, and I think Calvin can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it did actually. So part of our projects, we actually ended up researching a few different experts. You know, we would go and email and actually like, you know, talk with some people on Purdue campus to make sure that we actually knew what we were talking about. In the final project, the most notable people were the Purdue iOS club, who made the Purdue app, and the ITAP group. In my case, since we were doing advertisements, because we decided to kind of split our work and see which idea worked best. We had about 3 different ideas before we nailed onto one. The other one was the hotline. It was like a more defined version of the hotline. So for me, it was advertisements, and I went to go talk to marketing media. And once I discovered that they were covering a lot of ground, and that any idea that we would have basically is just kind of a incredibly subset version of that idea of what they were doing, I figured I'd toss them our idea and what we were planning on doing. And then I heard that they really liked it. And then a week before our final presentation, they sent me an email saying that they actually implemented the idea, and it was really cool to hear. So it was kind of nice to hear, like, just kind of watch that ProjectX, you know, even if our like, you know, smaller ideas had already started making impacts on the campus. So that was kind of a nice thing to see. And then, you know, kind of gave me an extra piece of motivation for like the final project, you know.
That's awesome. And can you tell us a little bit of the solution that you proposed, right? And I also want to know, with your different expertise, right, how did your expertise play out into the idea? To me, it sounds like a cohesive, wholesome solution. And then I realized, you know, you come from different fields, different interests. So I'm wondering what that process looked like as well, and the solution.
Yeah, definitely. So our general idea and approach was the app or the web portal, Purdue Pass. And the idea was that students would all have to fill out like a short 4-question survey that would kind of cover like your temperature, whether you tested positive, have you come into contact with COVID-19, and do you show any mild or severe symptoms? And then based on those answers, you'd get a red, yellow, or green pass, and that would determine your access to campus. So when you come to campus, you have to use your Purdue ID on door card readers to gain access to like more crowded buildings like Walk or Hicks, really anything that Purdue would want to put door card readers on. And the idea behind that was that we couldn't change the behavior of students, staff, or faculty off campus, because you can try to promote safe practices as much as possible, but at the end of the day, we're all just people do want to socialize, so we can't decrease transmission of COVID-19 off campus, but we can decrease that transmission on campus. And that was kind of the target of our solution. And then, like Calvin said, we integrated like the hotline into our solution as well, with if you got like a red pass and you either showed signs of COVID-19 or you were confirmed, it would link you to those resources, so provide you with support. I think our different backgrounds were honestly like key to developing our solution, because we all thought through very different aspects. So I did a lot of like the science medical research on that, like reading through CDC recommendations, because I'm a bio major, so I guess I'm used to that. Everybody else also like focused on different aspects.
I think, I guess how our different expertise played into it was, initially, because we thought it was a Krannert like case competition, we were very much like, oh, we should try and do like advertising or something. But I know me and Jack, like we were on call afterwards and we were like, we don't really know if we want to do advertising, because engineering, like we kind of want like a concrete answer with like a concrete solution, because that's just how like we want to have something that we can produce like results that you don't question, if that makes sense. So we were very much action based, like we were very much pushing for that, I think. Yeah, and our process was we were all just very much devil's advocates to every idea. Like every time someone would give an idea, someone would be like, okay, but like there's this and there's that. So it took actually a long time to choose what we wanted to do. It wasn't until Noor did some research and like told us about Columbia's app that we were like, okay.
Yeah, our solution is like, we looked at what other colleges were doing on the East Coast because like Gwen was saying, her and Jack were like, I think we should take an action-based approach. And we're like, definitely, let's kind of look into that. And there are several apps out there that are symptom-based questionnaires or private contact tracing. So our solution really just looked deeper into what the purpose behind that app would be and kind of fine-tuned it, and also integrated all kind of like the technology that you see into one place. So for example, the Columbia app, it is like 3 short questions, but there's no way to really enforce it on campus. So we implemented like the door card readers ourselves. And then also we added like the features of later on, you can add like private contact tracing. So yeah.
That's awesome. And how long did you work on the solution itself? Was it about 2-3 weeks?
I'd say about 2 weeks, give or take, because the timeline went, the first week was just brainstorming. The second week was starting to research and gather information. By the time we had met with our coach, which was on the 3rd week, we had a defined idea and we had a mock presentation, but it wasn't anything sound yet. We still had a lot of our ideas still flying out. And then, yeah, right around the 3rd week, we had really defined our idea, made sure we knew what we want. And then, yeah, so it was about 2 weeks, I would say, about a little under 2 weeks, maybe.
I see. Can you speak a little bit more, Kareem or Jack, about this coach and what their role in the project?
You want to take it, Jack?
Sure, yeah. So our coach, his name is Cody. I believe that he was a Purdue student previously, and he we showed him our presentation on the few ideas that we had, and we wanted him to give us some direction towards what he thought would be the best idea. And he was definitely very helpful. He has a background in the medical business, I believe. I think that he said that he was a healthcare engineer as well, which I think was very unique perspective. And so, yeah, he basically told us what he thought was the best path for us to take. And that ended up being what we made our final product.
I see.
I think like what was most helpful was that he was very blunt about everything. So whenever we would shoot him an idea, he would either like shoot it down or just like be as honest as possible. And I feel like at some points of our meetings, we'd be honestly like, just kind of scared because of all the all the things he was saying about COVID-19. It just made us seem like we didn't want to come back to Purdue at all and just say like our solution is just to close Purdue at that point.
Yeah, he was a pretty honest guy. He really kept us grounded before we made any crazy decisions or had any crazy ideas. He usually made us realize how things were in Indiana, gave us a unique perspective on Purdue itself. But very honest guy, and definitely it was very helpful. Before it scared us away, we were definitely more. It was nice to hear sometimes.
Right.
He did not.
Yeah,
He did
because
not
of the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because of the impact, possibly, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we want as many experts or people who might not be familiar with your idea at that point, maybe to ask questions and to just to make sure that everything is thought about at that point, which I can see in your presentation. I think the end result really showed that process. And after that, after you were done with the solution, what was the next process? What was the next stage of the project?
I think the next stage was just presenting. Like after we did our video, we all recorded our parts and like wrote out our script and stuff. We just had to present. Like we got the finalist email, and then we had to do the big presentation in front of everyone. But after that, I think it's just up to Purdue at that point. Like if they want to take our solution, they can. If they don't, there's no harm in us, I guess.
Okay, so you submitted a recorded presentation, and then you were informed that you were selected as finalists.
Yeah, and we also submitted we had like 3 deliverables. So it was our video, a presentation. So for us, that was just our PowerPoint that we used during the video. And then also the team brief, I think that's what it was called. So I would like working on those, I think was the most time consuming part. Because once we had our idea, when we were sitting down and like making the presentation, that's when everything kind of came out and we had to think through a lot more than we thought we did, and think through how we want to organize our recommendation and what it would look like.
Mm-hmm. So what was your reaction to hearing that you would be finalists?
Pretty shocking. It was really good to hear. I mean, I know, a lot of us had our different reactions. The group chat that we had together blew up. It was really fun to see. Everyone was like, oh my God, we made it. Because, and then I remember I was doing something. I got an email, and then I decided I didn't want to check it because I didn't want to see. And then the group chat blew up, so then I knew what had happened. So it was kind of nice. I know Kareem was doing something at the same time, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I was in an exam. The exam was 5 hours long for some reason, but it hit 5 o'clock. I saw on time. I just want to check it real quick. And I was waiting, and then I heard the Outlook notification. I checked real quick, texted in the group chat that we won. I was so excited, and then went back to my test. Yeah, it was really exciting.
Awesome. And there were 67 groups and 4 finalists. Just information for everyone. So this is a really amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
So then came the presentation, right? When you presented your idea and got the questions, right? Got the comments from all the experts, the judges, and also the attendees, how did it help you to think or refine your project, right? And also, the second part of that question is you have a complete list of frequently asked questions, and I can't, that is to me, right, the most complete FAQs I've ever seen in a project. So how did you come up with the different scenarios? So the question, the response to the questions and the different scenarios.
Well, I guess like Gwen said before, we were all like pretty hardcore devil's advocates on each other. You know, if someone thought of one idea, we would think of why that wouldn't work, and that was basically our entire process for a large majority of the time. Other questions were also sometimes asked by Cody. Um, I remember one of the questions right off the bat that he had shot at us was, I think, visitors and also if you lost your phone. Those were things that we had to think out our way out of, which, you know, we had answers for, which was nice. So yeah, we were kind of built into the idea that we were already devil's advocates. We would kind of argue with each other. Like, I know whenever me, Gwen, and Jack were like chatting at the end of it, there were definitely conversations where we went back and forth about a few things. And then more often than not, during the real meetings between like us five, it was also the same thing. You know, someone would pitch an idea, someone would say maybe that wouldn't work because of this, and then someone would argue it would work because of this, this, and that. And then so it would be constant redefining of our idea and just constant movement and just trying to figure out what works best and what doesn't work. And we also, I know Nora asked her uncle, like we would pull sources from like our own family members just to see what they would think, what I would think, you know, what everyone else would think. I know I asked my dad, and he gave me a few good tips too. So it was a lot of just because it was our first. I think part of it was because it was our first competition, because we came from different backgrounds. We more often than not were kind of constantly kind of like adjust our positions, and we kept trying to find resources because we didn't actually know what we were doing, or that's how we felt. We didn't know what we were doing. And yeah, I think that really helped create a more thorough design, simply because, you know, we had so many resources and we were constantly just going back and forth.
Yeah, and with the FAQs, because like Calvin said, this was our first case competition, we really wanted to make sure the appendix was thorough. ProjectX really gave us a lot of freedom on what our presentation could look like. And although they defined slightly like what an appendix was at the beginning of the competition, we knew that there had to be a section on FAQs, but we didn't know how in depth it needed to be. Because our initial submission was just the video and the presentation, we thought it would just be a lot more advantageous for us to really think through everything and have all those FAQs answered. So if the judges had any questions, they would see that we had thought through that aspect. And like Calvin said, we'd already discussed the majority of them. So it was really just putting them down and organizing them. Gwen, I remember after one of our meetings, came up with a document of questions that we had about our own recommendation. So when we were putting the appendix together, it was really just a matter of selecting the most relevant questions that we had asked ourselves and putting those answers down. I know Kareem and I also talked a lot about the idea and the logistics of the idea, and I think that's where a lot of FAQs came out of as well.
Yeah, I think I even remember like, because I think part of it too is working at the ARC as well, like interviewing a bunch of different people. I remember when we first talked about the app and like contact tracing, I remember the interview that I had with someone who was doing something similar, and there was that issue with privacy concerns. And when that came up during like our final presentation, I was like, okay, we got it. Thank goodness we thought it through. So
Yeah, having those FAQs definitely helped. We split them up amongst all of us because we knew that that was probably what they were going to ask us in the presentation, which ended up being super helpful because every question they asked us, we already knew who was going to answer, and yeah, we had the answer ready.
Right, and the way you point out, you know, as questions came in, and then you point out, oh, this is the page we thought about it. That is awesome. So what was your favorite part then about working in Project X? Maybe each of you can answer this question. Just share one memory of your favorite part of working with Project X.
I think for me, my favorite part was when it was like getting closer to the final presentation, because all of us were we would stay up really late and like we would practice over and over. And I just like, that was a lot of fun. It was very stressful, but like the feedback that we would give each other was very honest, but very like respectful as well. Like I remember right before, I think like 10 minutes before, I was on call with Calvin, and we were eating and we were just discussing how we would present everything. And I panicked when we were practicing the questions. So I was practicing everything. And then I told Calvin he should be more dramatic. It was just, I enjoyed that part a lot because I thought it was really funny to kind of see all of us like scrambling when we had already won. So
Yeah, I think my favorite part was, again, I think like towards the end, not only I felt like we had a really good presentation, because this is probably one of the best presentations slash PowerPoints like I've ever been a part of or ever done. But also I think I was really, really happy towards the end with my group members and the whole group, because we worked so well with each other. And I think we also started like bonding. It wasn't just like a Project X focus. Like we were laughing, we were making jokes, like we were having, like the meetings didn't feel like we were just discussing Project X. It felt like, it just felt like we were all as friends just talking together and just doing like a homework assignment together. So that was probably one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I agree with Kareem. And Gwen, because we're all saying like towards the end, that was definitely my favorite part. It was really funny to kind of see. I felt like I was more stressed after we became finalists and we had to present in front of everyone. And we had a meeting on the day of our final presentation and we were so nervous about it. And then technically when we joined the call, we did have technical difficulties because the host disabled our ability to turn on our camera. But I just thought it was really funny in the end. So yeah, that was definitely my favorite part.
Yeah, I think the final presentation was probably my favorite part. I think that actually, like, we worked all this time to get to this moment and we're finally here. And I think finally, like, getting some exposure for our idea, hopefully they can put it into action. I think that was the most rewarding part.
I think my favorite part was, yeah, like towards the end when we were just getting into the hard grind mode, developing the presentation and everything. I think my particularly favorite memory was, it was kind of in the midst of like the stress was like peaking. And I was like doing other school classes, so I was also like getting stressed from that. So it's kind of a weird balance of doing everything from afar. And I think the only reason I remember like this moment happening is because I shot a text into like, it was supposed to be between Gwen and Jack and I, just like, hey, can someone wake me up at a certain time? And then Gwen replied with, "Why are you still up?" It was my 5 because I was doing so many things at the same time. And then it was their 8 and they were confused at why I was still up because I basically pulled an all-nighter. Basically I shot him a text and then I said like, "Oh, can someone wake me up?" And then like Gwen texted me herself. She's like, "Did you mean to put that in Project X, like the main group chat?" And I said, "No." I was like, "I'm so sorry, guys. That was not for you guys. That was just for them." And then Gwen's like, "It's okay. I'll wake you up in 3 hours." I said, "Okay." So yeah, it was just kind of fun to see, like when stress was peaking. It was just like everyone could still laugh about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The collaboration that was happening among all of you.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge you faced in this project?
I think definitely coming up with the idea, because like in the beginning, those first 2 weeks, we would just sit in meetings and like go through our ideas, and it was challenging at times because the case itself is so difficult. Like, how do you even begin to think about targeting off-campus students, staff, and faculty with COVID, because we acknowledged at 1.2 that the problem isn't knowledge. Everybody does know what they should be doing. It's about taking that action-based approach. So I would say the initial brainstorm was the most challenging part.
I remember the interesting thing about our plan. We came to the conclusion that the reason why we moved away from the advertisement idea and the hotline idea was because we wanted to create something more unique. And so this kind of mold and kind of created a thing where it was kind of a race against Purdue. At first you think it's a race against other teams developing their ideas, but we quickly realized, we quickly realized it was just a race against Purdue. We wanted to do something that Purdue wasn't already developing, and we found that out through a lot of our interviews and stuff, that Purdue was doing so much as it were. We didn't know if our idea was going to be a very unique case, or if we just didn't want to do something that they were already doing, because if we did something that they were already doing, then what was the point of our internship? So it was a really interesting case where we actually weren't, most case competitions, they're usually going up against the other competitors. They're trying to create a more well thought out argument, and the solution should be very straightforward. Where in this case, our opponent was essentially this, this large being that was just tackling all these ideas from different aspects. And, we just had to keep up. We just had to create our one idea that was something that they have not already tackled, or if they were already thinking about, we could help redefine, because we had a student's perspective. That was something that, the Purdue University didn't actually have. So I think, yeah, definitely developing the idea was probably one of our bigger obstacles, and it was also because we wanted to create something that was thorough and unique, and just something that Purdue had not already touched. And that was, I think, in itself was pretty difficult. There were a bunch of things that happened right before the final presentation that we realized, oh my god, they're doing this.
Yeah, I remember Jack would send those sometimes in the group chat, Purdue's doing this now, Purdue's doing this now. And at the end of the day, our recommendation, I think, was unique. And Purdue hasn't released anything on doing something similar. I know Novid, which is a private contact tracing app, is on a Purdue Reddit page, but our app incorporates other aspects as well. But what Calvin said is spot on. It was really focusing more on Purdue. What are they doing? How can we change that, use our own perspective, more so than competing against other teams? That really wasn't the focus at all.
For me, the hardest part was making the first set of deliverables, because when we were coming up with I think the idea part was definitely difficult to come up with, but as soon as we figured out what we wanted to do, we kind of got the ball rolling. Where it kind of felt for me was oh, I feel like I'm hitting another kind of obstacle, was when we were trying to create the final presentation that we would submit the first time, and the video as well. I know that we were all trying to memorize our parts and not look like we were reading off the screen or something, and my fire alarm kept going off, and I was oh my goodness. And then also just creating the slides, we at first we were just making it with any kind of theme, but then I was because I know that I've been to team branding meetings or Purdue branding meetings. So I was very much if we want to win, we have to put everything in Purdue colors and Purdue branding guidelines. So I think figuring out the Purdue guidelines and then coming up with nice visuals was really hard, because we didn't know. I think this was the first time we ever made visuals like that, because when I make PowerPoints, I just put a lot of words on the slide and a random picture, but this everything had to be impactful. So for me, that was the hardest part, just making sure everything that we put was relevant and was the most important parts, because we only had 8 minutes, and getting it down to 8 minutes was rough too. So that was probably the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is getting it down to 8 minutes. Our initial script, I think, was a little over 10 minutes. And so cutting out those 2 minutes was just so difficult. We had a lot of disagreements about what we needed to cut out, and it was definitely a struggle.
Yeah, I saw how well coordinated the slides. I'm glad, Gwen, to see some of your work at the ARC also translated into the project. And even how you decided on the wardrobe. I actually asked Gwen, did you color coordinate and everything? So she said yes. So that was awesome to see. My last question for today: what is in the future for Suclean-Theorists? You've been working so well. What is the next work that you are going to tackle together as a team? Have you thought about that?
We have not. I think after the case competition, we don't really know what's next. If Purdue comes up to us and is like, oh, we like your idea and we want to take it on, we want you guys to kind of like run it and like head it, I think we would be very much willing to help out with it, especially because we already know what kinds of questions we want to ask. We already know, like, we thought out essentially all parts of it, and we did make like a mock-up of the app as well. So like we kind of know how it could get integrated into Purdue very smoothly. So if Purdue comes up to us and is like, we would like to accept your idea, can you tell us more about how you guys plan on integrating that? I think that would probably be the next step. But other than that, getting to Purdue and graduating is my next step. So
yeah, I mean, working as a group has been a really awesome and unique and just great experience all around. I'd love to work with these guys again. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of like other case competitions, I mean, if I could get the group together again, I guess that'd be cool. But also like doing another case competition face to face is another like ball game because we can't read our scripts. And, all of us were quite worried about that because, I mean, I know for a fact myself, I'm terrible at memorizing things. But yeah, I would, in terms of, aside from Project X and moving on forward with like other case competitions, it would be awesome to work with everybody again. But I don't know, doing the one time is not the worst thing in the world. It's a nice experience. And I think we had a really good group and a really good scenario to tackle, relative to who we are, as opposed to relative to what general Krannert competitions look like anyways, which are mostly financials based. I think that our group was awesome just because like everything was just aligned perfectly. The groups, the scenario itself, the circumstances of which we live in, which, that's not a great thing, but all around, So yeah, I'd like to, but I don't think we're gonna get a situation like this again.
I think also what Calvin said about our group kind of being like really well put together, we were all really surprised because I know initially when I saw that 2 other people were added to our group, we were like going crazy. We were messaging, we were like, what's gonna happen? Like, are we gonna like them? We weren't sure. We were really nervous as well. But I'm glad, especially like with the coincidences of how well our like groups know each other. Noor was saying how she knew about Renz and like Eileen, and I was like, oh my god, I work with Renz. He lives with Renz, So we were like talking about how our mutual circles were, and I think it's just really interesting how coincidental it all was and how well it was like put together. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this was a very unique case competition in the sense that there was a business aspect to it, but I would say like our team as a whole focused on everything else. Like Calvin handled the financials, and we definitely came up with like a not relatively, I forget what the other word is. An inexpensive kind of like
compared to Purdue, it's not expensive, hopefully.
Yeah, compared to the budget. I forget how much percent of the budget it is, but
2.53, sorry.
Yeah, so it was really nice because they weren't looking for, I don't think, a solution based on that anyways. So it all came together really nicely.
Any concluding word? I'm really looking forward to your future work together. And, I hope you will take some time to think about it, whether it's your next case competition, a podcast. I always suggest podcast, but a podcast or an article together. I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what's in the future for the clean theorists.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for your time, and wish you the best with the rest of the summer. And if you're taking classes, good luck with your class. And I hope Purdue will also decide to implement, some of your ideas, if not also the main ideas, right, that you have been working so hard for. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I will stop the recording now.
Okay.